From a penniless refugee fleeing war to one of the richest men on earth. This is the story of Aristotle Onassis, the man who turned tragedy into triumph and became a legend of wealth, power, and ambition. Aristotle Socrates Onassis was born on January 20, 1906, in Smyrna, then part of the Ottoman Empire, modern-day Izmir, Turkey. He grew up in a prosperous Greek family. His father, Socrates Onassis, was a wealthy tobacco merchant who provided young Aristotle with comfort and stability. But in 1922, catastrophe struck. The Greco-Turkish War ended with the burning of Smyrna, a tragedy that forced thousands of Greeks, including the Onassis family, to flee their homeland. Almost overnight, their wealth and security vanished. The Onassis family escaped to Greece as refugees, stripped of their fortune and possessions. Aristotle, just a teenager, experienced firsthand what it meant to lose everything. He had grown up surrounded by comfort and the wealth of his father's thriving tobacco business, but now he was displaced, impoverished, and forced to begin again. Many would have succumbed to despair under such crushing circumstances, yet Aristotle was different. From the very beginning, he refused to let misfortune define him. He carried within him an unwavering belief that he could rise above hardship, and he clung to that conviction with a kind of fierce stubbornness that would shape the rest of his life. In 1923, at only 17 years old, Aristotle made a life-altering decision. While his family remained in Greece, trying to piece together a modest existence, he would strike out alone. With little more than a few clothes and an unshakable will, he boarded a ship bound for Argentina. For most, the idea of crossing the ocean to an unfamiliar land without money, connections, or security would have been terrifying. But for Aristotle, it was an opportunity, a chance to rebuild, to test himself against the odds, and to chase the dreams he believed lay beyond the horizon. When he arrived in Buenos Aires, reality hit hard. The bustling city was alive with opportunity, but for a penniless refugee who barely spoke Spanish, the path forward was anything but easy. Onassis took whatever work he could find. One of his first jobs was as a humble telephone switchboard operator. For long hours he sat at a desk, connecting calls, listening to the voices of the wealthy and powerful on the other end of the line. Though menial, the job became a kind of classroom for him. He listened carefully, absorbing not only the language but also the rhythms of commerce, the tone of authority, and the subtle art of persuasion that marked those who controlled business and wealth. At night, after finishing his shifts, Onassis refused to rest. He enrolled in language courses and business studies, believing that education was his only way forward. He learned Spanish at remarkable speed, immersing himself in the culture, and he polished his English to prepare himself for international trade. At the same time, he relied on his Greek roots, which gave him entry into the small but tight-knit Greek community in Argentina. These connections, though modest at first, would provide him with both friendships and opportunities to gain his footing in the new world. Despite the hardships, Aristotle carried himself with a unique blend of persistence and charm. He was ambitious, but he also knew how to make others feel valued, respected, and drawn to his vision of the future. His natural charisma made it easier for him to build relationships, even with those far wealthier and more established than himself. He quickly earned a reputation as someone who worked tirelessly, learned rapidly, and never accepted no as the final answer. Onassis began to notice details that others ignored. He saw the habits of wealthy men, observed the products they desired, and listened to their conversations. He realized that the world of tobacco, which his family had once mastered, still offered him an entry point into success. But more importantly, he grasped a truth that would define his empire. Knowledge, resilience, and courage were the real currency of success, and he had all three. What started as a refugee's struggle for survival in Buenos Aires was slowly transforming into the foundation of one of the most extraordinary rags to riches. Stories of the 20th century. Onassis noticed something others overlooked. The global tobacco trade was booming. Leveraging his family's background in the tobacco industry, he started importing high-quality Turkish tobacco to Argentina. By blending it with local varieties, He created a unique product that appealed to wealthy smokers. He branded his cigarettes as luxurious and elite, marketing them as a status symbol. His bold approach set him apart, and within a few years, Onassis had transformed himself from a poor refugee into a successful young businessman. But tobacco was only the beginning. Onassis had his eyes on bigger opportunities, and he found them in shipping. During the Great Depression of the 1930s, shipping companies all over the world collapsed. While most saw a crisis, Onassis saw opportunity. He realized that massive oil tankers could be purchased for a fraction of their value. Using his growing wealth and sharp negotiating skills, he began buying second-hand ships at bargain prices. He had a simple but revolutionary vision. In a world increasingly dependent on oil, whoever controlled the transportation of oil would control immense wealth. Onassis re-registered his ships under flags of convenience in countries like Panama and Liberia, where regulations and taxes were lower. This allowed him to operate at a fraction of the cost of his competitors. It was a bold, innovative strategy that shocked the industry, but it gave him a powerful advantage. Within a few years, he had built one of the largest private shipping fleets in the world. By the 1940s and 1950s, Onassis was no longer just a successful entrepreneur. He was a global magnate. His oil tankers transported petroleum across continents, making him hundreds of millions of dollars. He was known for his ruthless business tactics, fearless risk-taking, and uncanny ability to seize opportunities others ignored. From a penniless refugee, he had become one of the richest men alive. But Onassis was more than a businessman. He was a man who lived life on a grand scale. He purchased the Christina O, one of the most luxurious private yachts in the world, named after his daughter. On it, he hosted kings, queens, celebrities, and politicians. His lavish parties became legendary, attended by icons like Winston Churchill, Marilyn Monroe, and Maria Callas. Speaking of Maria Callas, Onassis's romance with the famous opera singer was one of the most talked-about love affairs of the 20th century. They were both larger-than-life figures, she, the greatest soprano of her generation, he, the billionaire shipping tycoon. Their relationship was passionate, tempestuous, and constantly in the spotlight. But it was his later marriage that stunned the world. In 1968, Aristotle Onassis married Jacqueline Kennedy, the former First Lady of the United States and widow of President John F. Kennedy. Their union made global headlines, cementing Onassis's reputation not only as one of the richest men on earth, but also as one of the most powerful and influential.